Okay, so the next bit that I'm going to look at is conflict training. Right, now, I've been advised by every single organisation I've been to speak to in regards to this. All the forums say how the staff are going to be crying and be getting grief. Supermarkets couldn't tell me this enough. Please make sure your staff are prepared and trained on how to deal with conflict. Now, I've seen some organisations already who are doing 1 hour Zoom training to teach your staff everything they need to know about going back. How they're going to do it is beyond me, and I'm just disgusted that people can think that they can tick box something in this way. So that's one of the reasons why I've decided to put something together in terms of conflict training and give you 10 or 15 minutes of an overview of the type of stuff that I personally think that you should be covering with your staff if you want them to be good. If you want to just tell them a load of stuff or send them an email, it won't work, but it'll tick a box. And depending on what type of organisation you are will depend on which method you're going to use going forward. So conflict training, we obviously, now when you talk about conflict, people always think of destructive conflict. They don't sort of look at the productive side of things. So anyone that's worked with me before will be aware that I work with disc profiling. I think it's so powerful, it's untrue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through some sort of productive traits that these I's, S and C's will have, and then I'll talk through the destructive tendencies that they have as well. So with your D's, these are your people, the dominants, these are the drive, these are the pushing people who want to, these are the ones who won't like any of these new rules. They want to bend them and just push over, and they don't like cues and everything else that comes along with it. Now, in terms of their productive tendencies, these people are very straightforward, so you know what they're thinking. They acknowledge the tough issues, they talk about it, they say, yeah, this is what we're going to do, and they tell people what's going on. And they're also willing to have an objective debate. They love debates. They love, whether you call it arguing, they'll call it debating, but they like doing that. Now, so they're the good strengths that come out of the D people. Now, the destructive stuff is they can become extremely insensitive. Well, if they don't like it, it's their fault. That's just the way we do it. Well, I don't care. COVID comes first. That type of stuff where they don't look at it. In terms of impatience, now their impatience will become when people go, no, but we need to have a plan, and they're going, no, we've got to open. So you've got to, when you start to bear with these types of people, and these are the types of things that will kick in. They tend to create win-lose situations, and they don't like to lose. So therefore, be prepared for it. And they quite often refuse to bend. So I was doing a presentation, or I was part of a presentation for 800 sort of studios. And there was a few people in there who are going, well, I haven't got much space, so I'm just going to do what I can. And the high likelihood that person was one of these D's, and they wouldn't bend. But I was just saying to them, look, if you want to go against the law, just put that on the door, please, that we're not confined. We're not abiding by anything. I'm just going to go back onto that slide again. So I can talk about the other colours. So quite often the D's will also overpower as well. So you'll see some of that coming out from them. Then we go on to the I's. So these are normally the influential, the bouncy, bubbly, jokey type people. Now these will be very productive. They'll be very, very busy. Sometimes they may even be busy fools, but they'll be very busy and they'll be doing something, as they always are. Sometimes these people will talk over people. They won't mean it. They just get excited. They can be very impulsive, so they'll have someone just told me something, we've got to do it now, we've got to fix it, and it'll be very, very excitable, and it can sometimes cause over stuff. So these are really good traits. The fact that these are the traits that we don't want people to have. So the productive traits are they communicate empathy really good, they encourage dialogue, they want to reassure people, and they're quite verbal with their emotions, letting people know, we worry how you're feeling, how you're caring. But the I's can talk over people and gloss over tension just to make sure everything's okay. And sometimes, if they get defensive, they can make personal attacks, so that can cause some issues. The steady's normally nice and quiet, like to get on with things, and like their own sorts of comfort zones and stuff. So these show lots of flexibility. They look out for people's feelings. They're always looking out. Steve didn't look too happy the other day when we were mentioning that thing, So they tend to look out, and that they're looking for body language all the time with people. They tend to listen really well, so that helps them to sort of find compromises and bits and pieces. Now, one of the issues that they can have is they can become quite withdrawn. They can pull out of the conversation because they don't want to be seen as pushing things on people. They can also give in. So people will say, this is the way it's going to be. Are you okay with that? And they'll go, yeah. When in reality, they might not be. And this is where, in an ideal world, if we train people to understand body language and people, etc., we'd be able to help them with this. Again, they tend to let things simmer below the surface. So if there are issues, they gloss over it just to avoid the tension. But the tension's there and it needs to be dealt with. So that's something that we need to look at. And the last people in here are obviously the C's. So the C's, they tend to, they want to find the root of the cause. They want to sort out all the issues. They want to give people space and focus on the facts and make sure we're only doing things which are fact-based and not emotional, which are all really, really good traits. Now, they can become defensive. They can use passive-aggressive tactics, and they can become overcritical sometimes, and they like to self-isolate. And so you might see them, you know, they might not like to show videos on Zoom and stuff like that. They'll do a few things to keep themselves in a box. So you can see there, they're all different types of people that have productive and destructive sorts of tendencies. Now, there's a little video for you to watch, so I'm going to let you do that. Dornan, if you can let me know if they can hear it, that would be lovely.
It describes 4 basic styles. D, dominance. I,
quite quiet, Craig.
S, steadiness. And C, conscientiousness. Each of these experiences and processes conflict differently. Here's how it works. First, everyone has a dot. That dot tells you your disc style. And these words around the circle, they're called priorities. Together, they tell your story in conflict. For instance, people with the D style are direct and tough-minded. They have a strong need to shape their environment. So in conflict, they often take control, overshadowing others. Because they're assertive, they speak up about problems and stick up for themselves. And they can sometimes be forceful, justifying their side of the story when they're convinced they're right. People with the I style tend to be lively and enthusiastic. In conflict, they openly express their frustration or hurt, often needing to release what's building inside. And they assert themselves, hoping that they'll be acknowledged and heard, although sometimes this overwhelms others instead. And because they want reassurance, they may revisit the conversation until they feel the relationship is okay. Those with the S style are generally patient and even-tempered. Since they care so much about harmony, they're often quick to compromise or accommodate others in conflict. They worry about possible damage to the relationship, and so they'll look for ways to reassure the other person, hoping for the same in return. And they also want stability, so they often project calm and appear to agree on the surface, even if resentment is simmering underneath. And finally, the C style tends to be analytical and private. Because they prize objectivity, they rely on facts during a conflict and may dismiss more emotional points of view that make them uncomfortable. When emotions do start to rise, even just a little, it can threaten the stability they crave. And rather than provoke an outburst, they may withdraw or just stay quiet. They work to frame any disagreement rationally, creating intricate, logical justifications for their position. Now, in the real world, of course, your dot can be between 2 styles, such as in the area between I and S. And you can have 4 or even 5 priorities. For example, in addition to reassurance, expression, and harmony, you might also share the priority of objectivity with your C coworkers. Ultimately, DISC is not only a way for you to understand yourself better, but also a tool to appreciate different approaches to conflict. Compared to you, the situations that stress other people out might be completely different. But when you start to understand the different needs and motivations behind each DISC style, that's when conflict starts to shift from being a headache to actually being productive.
Okay. So what I want to do now, I want to quickly talk through the 18 things that cause conflict in the workplace. So we know arguing is unhealthy. We know it's not good. But what are the real motivations? What are the, is there any facts and logic behind the row? Or is it an ego thing? Because sometimes this happens. You must know some people in work just love it and they do it in that way. And the key is has anyone ever had an argument and then realised halfway through the argument, why am we arguing? Because you forgot the point, but the argument and emotions took over. So arguing is definitely key that we need to understand. In terms of belittling people, so this is when people sort of, it makes it easier to dismiss things and channels our frustrations. And if I make you look stupid when I'm in a queue, then it's, I'm not stupid and you are. So it's this sort of process. And what this does is sort of channels our frustrations, and we get really, really frustrated because people have put us in that situation when theoretically all we're going to be trying to do is open up and be as helpful as we can to everyone. Caving in. Well, caving in is just the easy option. This happens a lot in work, and this may happen where you may have certain rules in place, but you might have poor management. So what happens is one of the customers come in, they're breaking a rule. You as a receptionist maybe, or one of your duty management team might be dealing with the issue, and then the manager comes in and goes, "Oh, it's okay, just let them in." So when that type of thing happens, it's just the easy option. But what it does, it changes the balance of power, and it allows people to hide and shelter from the actual issue. So the manager hasn't solved the issue; they just got rid of the problem today. So these are the three starting issues of things that you need to look for in terms of conflict. Okay, defensiveness. Okay, so this is why can we be open? We know we need to trust. So it's about telling people, this is about vulnerability and overpowering people or insecurities that people have. We have no idea how these people are feeling. They've been locked up for 10 to 12 weeks or maybe even longer by the time we go back. So if people are defensive, just because you know the rules and you know all the standards and you know everything about your place, you must have seen this in supermarkets where they're starting to get snotty with you in the queue. You're not meant to queue there. You're meant to queue at the end, and you're like, well, there's lines on the floor, love. Yeah, well, we don't use them. Well, I don't know that. So this is why people tend to get defensive. So it's an issue we need to cover. And now, of course, I'm covering these very quickly just for the sake of today. But obviously, if we were training people, we'd go in a lot more detail. Dismissing options. So this is a blocking strategy. Oh, no, that won't work. Or that doesn't work with us. Or we have to follow rules. It's the classic, I don't know what I'm talking about. And you've got to be careful with this because there's a high likelihood that because the guidelines are so flexible and the information's everywhere, that your customers can know just as much as you, if not more. I've had this on a couple of occasions where I've gone into a certain shop and they've tried to talk about something and I know the rules. So they're wrong and I know they're lying. So I just get to the point, just look, I know you're lying, so it's fine. But just trying to dismiss and palm people off won't work. Again, what it also does is it will challenge people and it'll start to wind people up, which causes different issues that you're going to get then. People causing drama. So it's that people wanting to stand out, wanting to be the one who stands out above the group, as the one who, protecting their ego, and they're scared of other thoughts. And again, they don't like being challenged in any way, shape or form. So the idea behind it is some people will create this drama and make this mountain out of a molehill, which will cause issues that aren't actually issues. So again, teaching people how to deal with them is the perfect way to deal with it. Exaggerating. So this is when people exaggerate. I've been in this queue for an hour and a half now. We've only been out for 45 minutes, etc., etc. So we know the exaggeration is someone trying to justify that their feelings are valid and that their emotions are the case. And what it does is the over-exaggeration helps to build their case up. You see this in a hell of a lot of instances. I was dealing with a company partnership thing yesterday, and I've seen a classic example of this where someone over-exaggerated some minor facts, and then it made this really big case, which wasn't really a case at all. So stopping people from exaggerating, and we'll do that by understanding the rules. Exclusion, so keeping people's at arm's length and not letting staff or people know exactly what's going on. Some really bad managers do this where they think knowledge is power, so if they keep it with me, they're going to need me. So exclusion is absolutely not the way ahead. And obviously it will not build any support, which is exactly what we want to be doing during this time. Finger pointing, I call this BSE syndrome. Blame someone else. It's not me, it must have been someone else. I'm brilliant at what I do, it must have been them. It's not us, it's management. It's not us, it's marketing. It's not us, it's the cleaners. It's not us, it's the leisure system. It's not us, it's fitness. It's all that crap that comes out. So the idea behind it is that people who are doing that, it's an aggressive behaviour, and it's just a diversion tactic. It's trying to take people away from them. And in the short term, it might save their reputation, but it will damage their integrity in the long run. I know someone who's pretty good at this one, in that fella who irons his hair on, called Mr. Trump. So yeah, finger pointing, just not the way ahead at all. Gossiping, whew, this is people sort of venting their frustrations and using gossip as a power. It's a superpower to keep control of the group and to let people know. It's this perceived, if you get in, if you get in the group with Charlie's Angels, they'll let you know everything that's going on around here. And again, it's a really poor method, and it causes so much conflict in the business. So you'll know who they are. These are the ones who think they know everything, but they know the bits that they want to tell everyone normally. In terms of hypercriticism, so this is when you get back at someone, they've had a go at you, they've done something, so you go back and get them even better. You shoot down any ideas that they have, and we sort of find holes in their logic, and we do this, and it's not pretty. So again, it's a horrible technique that some people use, and it massively causes conflict. Again, these are all going to come from your cues, trust me. Again, overpowering. So this is when someone, quite often I've seen a lot of staff doing this in Tesco's and Asda and various different places where they think this is this newfound power they've got. They've got a whistle, they've got a cue, and they're telling people what to do. Overpowering is not the way. This eliminates fair play, and quite often it overrides logic, and it's about winning. And the whole idea behind this is that we only win if the customers are happy. So when you walk into a supermarket and you've got a lady there being quite horrible and snappy with you, maybe she's not the right person to do that particular job. And it's something we need to look at. So the idea behind it is that you'll have some sort of hierarchy in your organisation, but your staff are not more important than the customers. So, please make sure they're aware of that and they don't do any of the overpowering. Passive aggressive. This is that subtle stuff where people just say little snide remarks or nitpick. Just so they can make sure that everyone else knows that they've noticed what's going on, and then they start prodding people from a distance. Have you ever heard it where some people do this thing where they'll say a few little things and then they'll give someone else the bullets to fire? So again, the person who's actually complaining in the queue might not be the person that's winding everyone up. So this is part of understanding queue management. Apparently someone's going to do everything within an hour. How good are they? But no, I think you'd be stupid to do it in that way. Revenge. Something's happened. I've got to get them back. And this causes massive problems. So we saw them in the queue. They were messing about. So I'm going to make sure when they get to the front, we make them wait for longer. Again, it's a game that you're playing in your own head. It's not one that's ideally based around the fact that we're trying to get the best out of the customers for this. So that's a key factor in terms of revenge. We reassert ourselves, and we sort of then start becoming backhanded and petty in the way we deal with things. So that's not good. Sabotage. So this is making sure that people fail. Social lying or spreading rumours or physical tampering. So this is when you start telling people, well, I went to the gym the other day and they don't even do anything in there and the place was rotten, and it wasn't. It's not true, but it's when people start doing this, or someone's just come out there and they've said something to me, and again it's this person who's come out a little bit angry and they've said something to the queue to wind them all up. Again, the point being is that we've got to try and take that into account where we can, and make sure we train the staff to make sure they're not doing these things. Sarcasm. Some people think it's the lowest form of wit. It's a close cousin of passive aggression, is our sarcasm. And it's about putting people down a peg or two. Yeah, some people use this and say, well, I'm only joking. I was only joking. Well, I always thought jokes were meant to be funny. When you have to explain to people that you were joking, it probably wasn't a good joke. So sarcasm's not normally the best way of doing it. Lighten up, don't be so serious, that type of thing. They try and use it as a get out of jail card. So they've said something, it's caused a bit of anger. Oh, no, I was only saying, I didn't, I wasn't really having a go. Of course they were. But the idea behind it is about understanding it and how it works. Stonewalling. So this is shutting people down, not listening to them, punishing them. It's just avoiding people and palming them off. It's when your managers don't want to speak to certain people. Now, your managers need to be available more than ever. My biggest annoyance is the duty management, or I call them the key carriers, or the jailers, whatever you want to call them, is they're constantly sitting and bleeding, officers playing with paperwork. I always thought management was about making people better, and you don't do that from sitting on your bum in an office. So your managers need to be so available, it's untrue. And if they hear little things, they need to jump on it and go and help rather than hiding away from things. But a lot of this comes down to the fact that they were never really given proper training. They were just given a badge. And withdrawing from the situation, which is a bit like the way a lot of organisations have communicated. If you're 8 weeks in now, you should be at least 4 communications in with your customers, if not 8 communications in, giving them a one a week, just to let them know what the updates are. Quite often what people do is they put their head in the sand, and because we don't know everything, we won't tell them anything, which just causes anxiety, anger, insecurity, and obviously danger in the short term. So putting your head in the sand is not going to help everyone, and just staying in your comfort zone and not telling people what they need to know, again, is not key. I see this as a bit like the banks are. So when you walk into a bank and they have someone on the desk, etc., but they'll have someone in concierge walking through the queue going, how can I help you? Any issues? That type of thing. So we've really got to train people to deal with it. Now, you can see there's 18 different types of issues that can cause conflict in the workplace. Normally, when I train organisations, I train each individual with DISC, and certain people will handle, depending if I'm a D, an INS or a C, it will depend on how I handle some of those different issues, etc. Now, there's one thing that we can't control. We can't control the event. We can't control the situation and how that happens. So if a member of the public starts complaining and having a go, we're not in control of that. But what you are in control of is your reaction. And that's the only thing that's going to give us a good outcome. So what happens is when people start getting angry and in conflict, what happens is we tend to have what's called automatic responses, the knee-jerk reaction to having a go at someone because someone's had a go at you. Anyone that's ever had the chimp paradox, it'll be the chimp fighting against the chimp, which is not particularly a position that we want to be in. So what we really need to train people to do is to rethink the process. So when this automatic thought comes in, realize it's an automatic thought, and then have a look at what logical decisions we can drop in. Again, this type of training I see is something that is extremely, extremely important. Please don't do a 1 hour tick box, cover everyone on Zoom before they've even come back. I really think that's a poor effort of training. So please don't pick the easy way out just so you're covered in a box. Please do what's right for your customers, and please do what's right for your staff. Okay, Dawn Ann, we will now quickly go over to Q&A.
Okie dokes, we've got a few questions in that came in, so let me just bring these up. Okay, Shan, as ever, superstar, always comes in with comments. Shan had just obviously been saying that things had been a bit quiet in Wales so far in terms of like the guidelines being issued, and that there'd been a big hoo-ha at the weekend, and it was a big no from tennis at the moment. Marcus, you did come in talking about right at the beginning, Craig. He had a query regarding outdoor trim rails with fixed equipment. So it was, again, I'd ask Marcus just to clarify that question a bit more. So pop it into the Q&A, Marcus, if you can. What we did get was, apologies, I thought it was Lara, but it's Lana. Lana came in and said, can 5-a-sides restart, and how can social distancing be maintained? But again, Craig, over to you.
Yeah, I'll just have to slow down just a touch there, mate, because there's about 19 things fired up in my head, buzzing. So one of the questions there is about sports. There was one about sports then. Right,
okay, yep, sorry. So all I was saying was Shan had put some a comment in. Just it's been quite quiet in Wales in terms of guidelines being issued.
So, Sean, you're right. It's not very good. Now I'm on the Welsh Government Advisory Committee, and they haven't met up yet. I was hoping they were meeting last week, but they were waiting for the First Minister to give his views this week, and then apparently we're getting back together so we can start. You need the information, and there's none available. So you're dead right. That's fine. There was a big kick-off by the tennis community at the weekend, but it was definitive from Mark Drayford. So again, Tennis is open in England. It's open in Scotland. This is why the problem is the governing bodies say nothing, and then they have a go at you when you interpret the base guidelines that they haven't bothered interpreting. So I do feel your pain, which is why I'm trying to run these. Would outdoor... Sorry, I've just flicked up on 43 people then. Right, what I'm going to do, Dawn, is I'm just going to move this over to the screen that we shared, and so everyone can see the questions. There's a big... So I'm still not sure of that question, so if you can do that, that's fine. Is the guidance on bringing people back from furlough and then putting them back on furlough? At the minute, no. But basically, you can't put anyone on furlough after the 10th of June. So I'd suggest that as soon as you take them off furlough, they're not allowed back on. So, which is why you've got to be careful with these people that you bring back part-time. The guidance, again, is very, very loose on this. I've asked SimSpar if they'll put this onto the website, so hopefully we can get this on there. But yeah, as soon as you bring someone back, there's a high likelihood the decision won't be made until after the 10th of June. So hopefully that'll help you with that, and you won't be able to do it.
I can talk you through these, Craig, if you want.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Right, okay, so yeah, there was the furlough question that came in. There was one that came in from Simon. I know we talked about aircon advice previously. Yeah. He just said that there'd been a bit of conflicting views, and he was just wondering, what's right. And that, is it 80% fresh air, 20% recirculated? But
depends on what piece of kit he's got going on. So the point with this is you need to go to the Chartered Institute of Building, and it's a CIBSE. We put the documents onto the LinkedIn website, and they were on last week's guide. So it depends on your system. The conversation I had is that most systems tend to have 20% of air from outside and 80% recycled. And the feeling was that would have to be reversed, but it would be 8 times dearer in order to run that. So then, once, depending on what kit you've got, you might be able to put HEPA filters in instead of reversing it, etc., etc. It all depends on the kit. You've got to get your head around the CIBSE's guidelines, which, as I say, if you need them again, send me a quick email and I'll ping them over to you.
Okay, Marcus, thanks for coming back and clarifying your question. What Marcus is asking there, Craig, is can people use outdoor trim trails where stations are on a X kilometre circuit and stations may accommodate multiple people?
If social distancing can be adhered to and it's outside and no more than 6 people, or which country are they in? Marcus is in England, he's not Nottingham, isn't he? So yeah, as long as there's no more than 6 people involved, then he's fine.
Okay. Yep. So that's all the questions we've got at the moment, Craig. Anything else?
There's one here that I haven't answered. So can 5-a-side matches restart? No. So last week we presented it, and knew as soon as Elite Sport opened it was going to open a can of worms. Now, the problem is in 5-a-side, you could do football training with under 6 people as long as they were in different boxes passing to each other and they didn't physically touch the ball with their hands. So what I'm trying to say is that they wanted to do some sort of pre-season training where they've got their own space and they do keep-ups, then that's fine. But any actual 5-a-side or games where there's contact, and how they're going to do social distancing in a game of 5-a-side is absolutely beyond me. Then that's it. So that's where the Elite Sport is starting to mess it up slightly and people are getting slightly confused. But 5-a-side and contact sports are not back. Now, what the NGBs are all starting to come back with is you may be able to set up training if you have the right... So in England, if it's under 6 and you've got the space and they don't touch and you don't share the ball. So imagine I'm doing netball practice. I might be able to go against the wall and do wall passes. That's fine. And if someone else does that 2 meters down the block, then that's fine. So that's what the NGBs are starting to come out with now. But it's baffling that they're not interpreting the guidance for you. And then as soon as you sort of interpret it yourself, they tell you that you're wrong, which is very nice of them. Okay, so any more? That's all our questions, which is excellent. Last one, which is the star rating. Again, if you can just answer this question for me. Did this session help? Hopefully it did. As I say, I'm willing to keep doing these free of charge as long as people like them. As soon as it sort of starts dying off a little bit, then I'll probably have to start getting paid somehow and start doing proper work. Thank you very much for your kind words and kind thoughts. So out of 50 different people who voted, we've got an average score of 4.5. So thank you very, very much for that. Now, straight after this session, we're going to send over a PDF of this presentation. We'd normally send a link to the video, but it's only for this. I'm going to see whether it went off for a little bit, so it stopped recording. So I'll see what I can try and get up on YouTube. So within about 20 to 30 minutes, we'll send you a little bit of a recap to make sure that everything's okay. If anyone's got any queries, if anyone's liked it and wants to put any nice stuff about me and Dornan from Data Pepper on LinkedIn, that would be really nice. I'm doing it free of charge. I'm not getting paid. So any help you can give me for sitting in an office for 8 weeks looking at some of the most exciting stuff I've ever looked at, like air conditioning units and fun things like that, then please help. Any help you can give us would be absolutely amazing. So thank you very much. We hope you've enjoyed it. Next week's we'll set up next week, so we'll send that link out ready. So all you'll have to do is click on the link that's in the follow-up email to get yourself booked in for next week. I've got a meeting next week with Swim England, which their guidance is getting closer. So I'm hoping I might be able to do something on that for you. And I'm sure there'll be a few more mess ups and guide ups from the First Minister / Boris in the next couple of days too. So thank you very much, and I'll hopefully speak to you soon.